We are live from the Hocking Hacienda today in the middle of nowhere, Idaho. Uh, so yes, my background has officially changed. I've been hinting at that lately. I am Dallisa Hocking, a fifth generation psychic medium. I recently moved to Idaho and my house is not ready yet. So I am borrowing a bedroom in my parents' house. And so me and my two cats, and my cats are getting into everything. It's been an experience these last few days, but fun. It's a gorgeous part of the United States. If you've never been to North Idaho, definitely check it out. It looks like folks are starting to join in. Say hello in the chat if you would. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And yeah, Daniela is already asking everybody to weigh in on how is everyone feeling after the full moon. I don't even know, that energy it can be intense, right? I think that it was a full moon in Scorpio, if I have my memories straight. And so people may have been feeling that intensity. How's everybody sleeping? I'd love to know that too. Hello, yay! I love when we do these shows. Weird. Let's see if it says same here, just the blue screen. Everybody's saying blue screen. Um, yeah, because it's still showing. Oh, there. I'm back. Oh my God. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, I'm just going to bring you on screen since you're talking to me from backstage.
Yeah, bring me on. Great to be in the Hocking Hacienda. The Hocking Hacienda.
Oh, God. Yeah, and they have really good internet. So
Okay.
I can't blame their internet. I don't know what the heck is going on. So yeah, that's why I always pulled up on my phone to make sure I can actually see it, because
Yes.
I swear, I know people, I use a platform called Be Live, and there's people that have used StreamYard that have had issues too. So I know there's other platforms and stuff you can do streaming on, but I don't think we're alone in the technology issue department. But anyway, so hello, Scott. I think most people, yeah, I think most everybody on my channel that follows this knows you already and has probably seen us doing our episodes together. You have your website, theweeklytransit.com, and you have your podcast, you do astrology sessions, and you teach classes, and you do all the things around astrology. And I love chatting with you because we both come from different viewpoints, right? So
Mm.
you're looking a lot at the astrology and the energy, and I look at it as a lot of the psychic downloads.
Mm.
Um, so I would love to talk to you on there's a couple of different things before we start going into news headlines. Uh, Saturn is getting ready to go into Aries.
Yeah.
So it's been in Pisces for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's at the final degrees of Pisces. And people that don't
Mm-hmm.
even understand astrology, I know we're going to explain it in a way that they're going to get it.
For sure.
Or hopefully.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, what's that vibe shift that comes with it? Because with Saturn in Pisces, Pisces being the last sign of the zodiac,
Mm-hmm.
and now Saturn's getting ready to go into Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac. I would imagine that we're going to feel this, but I'm sure you have, like, if you've given some thought to what this may bring or what we may be feeling with this shift.
Yes, definitely. So Saturn is like when you're looking at the symbol for Saturn, it's a cross of matter with a crescent of receptivity pointed down, and it's bent. It looks like it's pressing into the ground, and it signifies the work that is required to achieve your ambitions in the material world. Saturn is the god of wealth and time, the planet of restriction, responsibility, hard work, achievement, authority. So Saturn has been transiting through Pisces for the last 3 years almost. It's going to go back into Pisces next year. So by the time it fully moves out of Pisces, it'll be 3 years. But it's been there for the last couple of years, and it's been bringing that restrictive nature to our unconscious. It's bringing our guilt, shame, regret, blame. This is what we suppress within our unconscious. It's bringing that into our reality so that we can really work with it in a meaningful way, so that we can take responsibility for the guilt, the shame, the regret, the blame, and show ourselves compassion, so we can integrate those thought patterns and memories with understanding, forgiveness, and love for ourselves. And so when you think about Pisces moving to Aries, Pisces is the final sign, Aries is the first sign. So I think of it as kind of like a rebirth, a restarting. The first sign, Aries, that's cardinal fire. The cardinal signs lead us into the new season. When the sun is in Aries, it's the beginning of spring. So it's a starter sign. Fire is extroverted, water is introverted. Fire is something that can touch you, but it's not something that you would want to touch. It can warm a room on a cold winter's night, or it can burn down the house. It's all how you're working with the energy. So I think of Aries as the spark, it's the match, it's lighting the fire. And Aries is associated with the self. It's the first sign, so it's your first impression. It's what you're showing people. So with Saturn, the planet of restriction in the sign that represents personality, we're going to feel potentially a sense of restriction to how we are expressing ourselves, because we've been working with our unconscious very deeply. We've been needing to come to terms with all of our psychological baggage in a compassionate, empathetic way. And when it moves into Aries, it's going to be like, oh, here's the new me. Like, do I feel comfortable with this new person that I'm putting out there? Do people like me? Do I feel okay being myself around other people? Can I be authentic? We might be holding back a little bit because there might be some insecurity in terms of how we are wanting to express ourselves.
Whew. Yeah, I just showed the comment on the screen from Daniela. I felt like I had a winter coat on and had to shake it off.
Mm.
Um, yeah, the feeling of Pisces is so different from Aries, comparing the two side by side. I know that we've talked in the past about Aries being kind of the statement I am, I am, and
Yes.
like filling in that blank, right?
Mhm.
When I think of Pisces energy, now this could not be, it might not be astrologically, but when I think about the energy, Pisces, I feel like the collective. I feel this deep kind of abyss into the energy. And so going from that into areas of I am,
Mhm.
then I'm wondering, could there be kind of that shadow side of Aries that could feel aggressive, that could feel um, like that fire initiator, that it's like go, 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 go. But I feel psychically like the energy right now is like I'm trying to walk through quicksand.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering what that means to you, or if that is relatable, or if you've had some similar stories you've heard from clients or things that you've experienced. But are we trying to move through this passage of time, I think is where I'm going with this, between that deep abyss, or maybe even that quicksand, and maybe that Aries energy is trying to pull us up and out of the quicksand energy, but are we going to be successful in doing it?
Hmm. Well, so first of all, like you think of Pisces as the collective. Now the way that I would describe it from an astrological perspective is Aquarius, the sign that precedes Pisces, that's the collective. But Pisces is everything.
Ah,
It's beyond the collective. It's like it's that understanding that you are connected to all that is, all that was, and all that ever will be. You are one with the universe. That's Pisces. And so we go from that to Aries, which is I'm just one. I'm here on my own. I can't no one's going to do it for me. I've got to do it myself. It's a dramatic shift from Pisces to Aries, but Pisces is that sort of quicksand feeling because there's a real heaviness to it. When you think about it, Pisces is the final sign. So it carries the weight of the 11 previous signs. Pisces rules the feet. The feet carry the weight of the entire body. Aries rules the head. So how people you identify me, I don't put my feet on the screen. No one's going to know that that's Scott, but they see his face and they're like, "Oh, that's Scott. That's Aries." So, but yes, whenever there's two sides to every coin, and so on the other side of the Aries coin, with Saturn in Aries, is that feeling of restriction that I can't be myself. I can't be myself with these people, this group, my family, so on and so forth. And there might be really like a reaction to that, where if like you feel restricted, where you can't be yourself, you may exert yourself in a more aggressive way than you normally would. So, there could be some brooding fire or explosiveness that arises from this Saturn in Aries period. And, when you just think about it historically, the sun or Saturn was in Aries back in is like 96 to 98, and a bit from 98 to 99. So what was going on in the world in that time, I don't really know, but the late 60s, 67 to 69 was also when Saturn was in Aries. So maybe if there's any historians out there, they can give us some perspective. But I really think that it could be a time where you're feeling restricted to express yourself, and because of that, you may be more aggressive in doing so.
oh, okay. Kind of reminds me of just the energy of like shooting out of a cannon.
Hmm.
Um, and maybe maybe the shot out of the cannon's okay, but then gravity takes over.
Mm.
So, how do we fall back to the earth after we get that Aries like rush or push of energy, maybe?
Well,
Interesting.
it's
Yeah.
establishing, it's helping us establish ourselves. Saturn it's work. Over the next 3 years or so, we're going to be working very hard, or we're going to be called to work very hard to define who you are. It's about
Mm.
defining who you are. And it may be difficult, it may be challenging to define who you are. And there may be conflicts that come up in a big way that are really pushing or forcing you to define who you are. Because you may feel like you need to fight for yourself. So yeah, some people wonder if the world is going to end in 1999. Exactly. I was drunk and high on the Las Vegas Strip on Y2K, and like, okay, this is it. Like, if we're going down, then I'm going to be here partying. I'm in my 20s in Vegas, so that was my experience in 1999. So, yeah, but yeah, it was kind of people were, what's going to happen? Yes. Heavy dream. Yeah. So, there's a lot of that, a lot of heavy dreaming right now, a lot of sleeplessness that I'm hearing from clients. I think a lot of that had to do with the Scorpio full moon, but also Saturn in Pisces. The last couple years, people have been having trouble sleeping, the ones that I'm talking to, because the planet of restriction in the sign that represents dreams.
That makes sense. Yeah. For me, I have two cats that love to fight and run around and jump on top of me while I'm sleeping. So,
Mm. They're a part of your dreamscape.
oh God, they were so mad for the first few days of this
Yeah, they're
move.
like, what did you do?
Oh, I have desert lynx. Frankie's a desert lynx, and she's really, really smart. But she's in her lineage. She has bobcat, so
Hmm.
she is wild. I thought she might eat me when I was asleep
Hmm.
because she was so mad. I,
Hmm.
I walked in the other night. I was going to do so. I was going to take a shower, and I walk into the bathroom. I flip the light switch on, and she took up the entire tank. I didn't know she was in there, and she was laying in there. And I flipped the light on. It's like the things that nightmares are made of.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah, it's a whole thing. I'm sure I'll have another update next week. We're doing because my mom has their two cats here,
Oh boy.
so we're doing this like, where do I keep the crazy wild cat? And
Hmm.
then, will my one cat like her two cats? Can we get them to go together? It's like a whole thing.
Wow.
Um, but last night, I did get a little sleep through this craziness, and my ex boyfriend showed up in the dream, and I was fine with him being there. It was like I was watching him on TV. Um, but he had like this massive like head of hair that he didn't have.
Hmm.
So my dream didn't feel heavy, but it felt very weird. So it's good to know that Pisces, Saturn Pisces final degrees may be activating
Yes.
a lot more of that.
So it's important for you to really, do some inner work about, like, what does this mean? Thinking, like, really reflecting upon your unconscious. And it's not just, the dreams when you're actually sleeping, but, when you're driving in the car somewhere that you go all the time, or you're doing the laundry or doing the dishes or some sort of mundane act, like, where is your mind drifting off to? These are opportunities for you to receive information from the universe, from the higher power that's saying, hey, pay attention to this. This is something you need to work on. And especially if, like, an ex-lover or boyfriend is coming up right now, I feel like that's significant because of several planets transiting through Aries, but particularly Venus is transiting through Aries. I mean, Chiron is there as well, Neptune is there, but Venus is helping us really define, like, who am I in my relationships? Who am I in my relationships? What do I need from my partner? What didn't I get from a past partner that I want? I wanted a partner with more hair. Maybe, like, what is that all about? So, and then with the Sun and Mercury transiting through Taurus right now, there's major themes around self-worth and values coming up in a big way. Like, do I actually like this? Is this something I want? Is this something I value? Do I feel valued in the relationships that I have? Do I feel valued in my own life? When I look around at my reality, does it feel like something I want?
Yeah, like a review of our life, thinking about what we value, what we maybe don't
Yeah,
value
we're
anymore.
it's yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're taking sort of inventory of our unconscious and our reality. Uh, and Valerie, I see Valerie Vaughn here is saying, or uh, my ex was in my dreams, or no, this was Daniela is asking about her ex. He's dead. Any ideas what that is? That's a question for you, Daniela. Like, what does that mean to you? What was your ex doing in the dream? What was your relationship with your ex? Like, there's no wrong answer, but it's, what does that mean to you? What was your? I would just ask you all these questions. What was your relationship with your ex? What was your ex doing in the dream? Was he saying something to you? What did he look like? It could all give you insight into what's going on with you energetically right now in your relationships. So really think about the context of the dream in terms of what's going on in your life right now. Um, Not good stuff. Okay. Well, is there something, Chiron transiting through Aries is bringing up feelings of insecurity, fears within ourselves that need to be faced, that need to be addressed, especially now with Saturn about to move into Aries. Yeah, I think I had too many things to say before you passed. So maybe, are you saying that you felt like you weren't able to be authentic with him? You weren't able to courageously be yourself with him. This is maybe bringing that up so that you can be, so that you can say it now. When you think about this full moon in Scorpio that just passed, that was about releasing karmic entanglements. Who have you been intimate with? Who have you shared secrets with, your money with, your financial information with, your body with? These are the people that you've been intimately involved with. These are your karmic entanglements. The full moon in Scorpio was about releasing those karmic entanglements or frequencies within those karmic entanglements that are no longer serving you because they are not reflecting your self-worth, your current value for yourself. But now the moon has transited into Sagittarius. So it's about freedom. Now that we've released those karmic entanglements, let's be honest, let's be open, let's be free in a way that satisfies our emotions. That's the frequency right now.
Yeah, so we have a lot of folks in the live chat talking about their dreams and who they've been
Mm.
seeing, what's been happening. I agree, Scott. I think our dreams can be really healing. And if we
Mm-hmm.
sit and ask ourselves those bigger questions, I'm teaching a class this month on dream interpretation.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, I didn't realize like how perfectly timed it was.
Yes. Yes. Sounds like Daniela could benefit from your class.
Yes. Wow. So amazing. Okay. The next thing I want to ask you about before we go into headlines
Yeah.
is Jupiter has been in the sign of Gemini. It's going
Mm-hmm.
into the final degrees of Gemini, and it's going to be going into Cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's a lot of people that think that Jupiter is this really amazing planet of, fortune, good luck, and all these things. And I think of Jupiter sometimes of like, whatever Jupiter touches, I feel like it just makes bigger.
Yeah.
And it's a simple way of thinking about it in my mind.
Yes.
And so wherever we have the sign of Cancer in our birth chart, that's what
Mhm.
Jupiter is going to be transiting. So you can get an idea of like what these themes are. So when you think about Jupiter going in to Cancer, I know there has to be like good things and not so great things that we have to work through with this. Because I think of the sign of Cancer as having a lot of emotions
Mm.
and, the home life and family and all that good stuff. So what are you thinking as an astrologer about this massive planet of Jupiter getting ready to go into Cancer?
Yes, so like you said, Jupiter is the planet of expansion. When you look at the symbol for Jupiter, it's a cross of matter with a crescent of receptivity pointed out. Saturn is pointed down, pressing into the ground, restriction, limitation. Jupiter is expansion. It's crescent of receptivity pointing out, symbolizing the possibilities that exist beyond your present reality. Jupiter is the god of thunder, Lord of Justice, the planet of luck and expansion. So, yes, it's abundance, but there's two sides to every coin. It can also be indulgence. And so, it's all how you're working with the energy. Now, when we're talking about Cancer, like Aries, Cancer is a cardinal sign because when the sun is in Cancer, it's the beginning of summer. But Cancer is a water sign. Water, unlike fire, is more introverted than extroverted because water is something where you are initiating the touch more so than water is initiating the touch with you. Water can nourish you by drinking it, or it can drown you. It's all how you're working with the energy. The planetary ruler of Cancer is the moon. The moon is the planet of emotions. And the symbol for Cancer is the crab. The crab is that goofy, sideways walking creature with a hard outer shell and a soft inner core that lives by the beach and is very determined to get to where it needs to go in order to continue its family lineage. So when you think of Jupiter in Cancer, uh, it's expanding the experiences of the home, the family, your roots, your upbringing, your childhood, the ones who raised and nurtured you, your ancestors, your bloodline. That is all going to be amplified. And when you think about Jupiter transiting into Cancer, it's going to create a tense aspect, a 90-degree angle with Saturn in Aries. So
Wow.
this year, when Jupiter moves into Cancer, Saturn's going to be in Aries and they're going to square off with each other, which means that during that period, which is going to happen exactly, let's see, that's going to be, I just want to give everyone fair warning here. So, we're talking about June. In June, is when, like this next month, is when Jupiter in Cancer is going to square Saturn in Aries. And so there may be issues that come up with regards to our past, our relationship to our past, our childhood, our ancestry, our bloodline, our parents, our home life that are going to create a sense of restriction and limitation in terms of our self-expression, where you may feel like, well, this is who I am now. But then you're pulled back by the past that says, no, you can't be that, Scott, because this happened to you when you were 5, or, your family this, your grandparents that, or, there may be, you might be feeling yourself pulled back into the familial fold. And so there's work to be done. Like, allow yourself to feel the emotions that come up. This is not a time to suppress the emotion. It's time to let the emotion come up. There may be anger that comes up that is suppressed, or maybe it's brooding during this Saturn square Jupiter period, where like the anger about your past is brooding, and you don't want to talk about it with anyone, and you're just kind of suppressing it down. But it needs to be addressed. eventually, so that by the end of Jupiter's transit through Cancer, by next year, the end of next year or so, we're feeling like we have a sense of abundance when it comes to home and family, and we feel lighter there because we've done that inner work to really reflect upon our past and deal with all the experience that occurred in our past that maybe restricted us from being who we ever wanted to be.
So with Saturn going into Aries and Jupiter going into Cancer and everything that you just eloquently described, feels like we're in a time tunnel. Maybe tunnel's not the right word, but where
Portal.
we're being asked, what's that?
A time portal.
Yeah. Yes, where we're being asked, who am I? And
And where do I
maybe,
come from?
yeah,
Yeah.
because maybe we're going to be revisiting some of the stories about the family that we're in. Every family has things that happen inside of that family, and were those things dealt with? I know some families, brush things under the rug, and it's like, let's not talk about it. Don't look at that. Don't look over there. Um, so it wouldn't surprise me if there was some massive healing for people, this year, next year, where they feel like, as you were describing, like kind of coming out into the world as themselves and who they are and who they want to be. So I think that it actually feels, when you describe it, like there could be a lot of freedom that could come with this.
Absolutely. It's like we're eventually meant to be emerging from the familial shadow so that we can be ourselves. That I'm of this family, I'm a part of this family, but I'm not like everyone else in my family. Like, I can stand on my own. I'm not overshadowed by my family. I'm not, restricted by my family. I am empowered by my familial story. It's a part of who I am, but it's not all of who I am. It's like a flower that grows out of the dirt. The dirt is the family, and you're the flower. You're of the dirt. The roots are in the dirt, but you're shining. You're beautiful above the dirt, and your familial history is the dirt. It's the soil.
Oh, I love that. I just helped my parents plant their garden
Hmm.
a couple days ago, and we were out there in the manure and the and the dirt and everything else. And it was raining outside. It was cold, and my parents were just going to go outside and do it. And I said,
Hmm.
no, I want to help. I want to
Hmm.
learn how to do this,
Yeah.
because for me, I saw my paternal grandparents with their garden and how they would grow all kinds of fruits and vegetables and flowers. And so now my parents are starting to do that.
Hmm.
And so I think even that aligns with what we've been talking about, even though Jupiter isn't quite in Cancer yet. But I could even see that as an example of that family lineage. And as you were saying, like the perseverance of a family unit and getting, elevating that family to keep moving forward and to have that lineage.
Hmm.
Um, and so it doesn't have to be negative things about what we're doing with our family or what that looks like. But don't be surprised if you feel kind of emotionally mushy or sappy in a
Hmm.
beautiful way, where you're asking those bigger questions about, what is my family, or who are my family to me? And some of those memories maybe of what you've experienced with them over the years.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, this conversation is so juicy. And then we have, of course, all of our friends in the live chat
Hmm.
um, sharing what they've been going through. And I've been keeping an eye on that.
Hmm.
Yeah, people love the way that
Oh.
you articulate. Yeah.
Thank you, Suzanne.
I did forget to mention our jar. I guess I just assumed everybody knew, and I was so excited to report from the Hocking Hacienda that I forgot to mention the jar. But everybody that's here live, if you drop a comment in, your little bauble will go inside that jar. And then I'll pull a winner at the end of today's show for a personalized 12-month tarot report. So,
Wow,
uh,
cool.
yeah, I know one of your clients last week, I think it was, Scott, won.
Yeah, exactly. Amanda.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was so nice sending me over an email, and she said that she found my work through you, and then she ended up winning. So it's all just a really lovely family we have here, staying
Mm.
on theme.
Yes, I
uh,
love it. I love the synastry between us.
yes,
Yes.
yes. Oh, Pamela, happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday,
Yay.
Pamela.
Beautiful. Okay, let's go into these headlines. I
Yeah.
tried to pick a few that I thought were interesting. Let's see what we can come up with here. And as we go through these in our live chat, let us know your thoughts on these. So I am not currently a mathematician, but
Yeah.
I saw
I don't
this
know what that
article
means.
that says the universe is expected to decay in 10 to the 78th power. I
Uh-huh.
think that's how you read it. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Years much sooner than previously thought.
Uh-oh.
And I was reading this article and I'm like, because it used to be 10 to the whatever. And I'm like, oh my God. So I almost feel like it's fear porn of just
Yeah,
trying to get somebody to
totally.
read an article like this to be like,
Exactly.
it's going to decay in 10 years. Like, I
Yeah.
would imagine that there is a percentage of the population that
Yeah.
doesn't see that 78
Right. Yeah.
next to that 10 and thinks that
Exactly.
the universe may end in 10 years.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
this is crazy.
Yeah.
So, is there anything in the astrology pointing to more of these like deceptive news stories or trying to separate fact from fiction? So, is there, or
I
maybe
could
you've got something else with this?
no, well, you just brought it up, like, right there. With the way that you articulated yourself right now, just the thing that popped into my mind was Neptune and Aries, because it's like Neptune and Aries brings doubt to ourselves. And if you are somebody who identifies, as we all do, we're living in the universe, and it's like, oh my god, like, my home is, yeah, clickbait for sure. But it's creating confusion, and creating a lack of faith in terms of who you are, and why you're here, or what you're here to do, like how you identify. It's like, oh, now this is why I can't sleep tonight, because the universe is decaying 10 to the 78th power years sooner than previously thought. Oh no. So, maybe for some people it's going to create doubt and concern, and they might lose faith in who they are and where they are and what they're here to do. Could be that.
Yeah. We
When I
have to.
saw this, when you showed this to me, I was like, I just, I'm like, let's do the headlines from like 10 years ago, or 25 years or 50 years ago, and see what they were predicting back then, and how true it is today, because there's always so many grandiose headlines that, oh, the planet's going to die in 10 years, or, there's going to be, the planet's warming, or the planet's freezing, or it's always like some sort of different messaging, and all it does is create fear and anxiety in people.
Absolutely. I like, who came up with this story idea and was like, "Oh, we have to share this with the
Yeah,
public." Yeah.
exactly. And
Um
and yeah, totally. Like, I don't know who wrote this article, what this publication is, what's their reasoning behind coming up with this. So I don't. Yeah, it's not going to affect me any.
no. Yeah, and we probably talked about it even for too long, so I'll go ahead and scroll on to the next one.
Okay, cool.
So this was Israeli American hostage that was let go, released by Hamas. So
Mm-hmm.
I know this made a lot of the major news channels. I think everyone was pretty reporting on it. So I'm really curious what in astrology would point to something hidden that maybe is coming out into the open, or something that's been tucked away that reemerges? Is there something happening right now that might fit that theme?
Maybe it's Lilith in Scorpio, because Scorpio represents secrets. It's the hidden, it's the scorpion. The scorpion's like hiding beneath the surface or in the wall. So maybe that has something to do with it. And, but released by Hamas, I also think of this Aries frequency and Leo frequency, that fire energy of like bringing something out into the open. They're both, you've got with Mars in Leo and Venus in Aries, you've got, these two quicker moving planets in very extroverted signs. So maybe that had something to do with it too, and then there was the full moon in Scorpio, which was literally yesterday. So again, that secrets and releasing, these certain bonds. This person was held hostage, and yeah, so the Lilith makes sense too. I think it's maybe a combination of Lilith and the full moon in Scorpio yesterday.
Yeah, yeah. I hadn't thought about Black Moon Lilith. Gosh, is that like, in your opinion? I don't know how closely you track Black Moon Lilith, but when she's in the sign of Scorpio, is that like the most intense placement that Black Moon Lilith has? Or do you think there's another sign that also kind of has that matched intensity?
I think Scorpio would be the most intense. I mean, that's just my guess. I'm not an expert on Lilith. It isn't something that I follow too closely. I did do a podcast a couple months ago, or maybe with my friend and fellow astrologer Ricky King, who's super into Lilith, and we talked about Lilith and Scorpio at length, or she did, and really had more of the historical context of what that is. But, to me, there's no deeper, darker, more penetrating or intense sign than Scorpio. And Lilith is a very intense frequency.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Okay, let's see what we have next. Oh, Diddy. Diddy. Yeah, so I think today, Cassie, his ex, I believe she gave testimony to stand, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's pregnant with their third, or not with their, she's pregnant with her third child, 8 months pregnant. I can't even imagine at
Wow.
8 months pregnant going to be a part of the testimony in this trial that a lot of news outlets are covering.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot that comes out of this trial.
Mm.
It doesn't feel so cut and dry in terms of the charges. So we'll see from just an energetic, predictive standpoint what ends up happening with it. But what do you make of this trial with the astrology? I mean, he's being accused of, what did he call them? The freak off parties.
Okay.
Um, and
Is this
Trent,
child trafficking and that sort of stuff? Is
I
that
think one of the charges is around trafficking. Somebody in the chat may know more than I do on the charges, but I know there was somebody that testified recently, who's a male prostitute, or was. I don't know exactly if he's still in that profession, but he was hired, it sounds like, to be a part of the freak off parties, but that they had transported that prostitute
Mm-hmm.
for for the freak off party. So
I
they were
just
just,
looked it up. He's being charged with 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and 2 counts of transportation for purposes of prostitution. Also, kidnapping, bribery, arson, and obstruction of justice. If convicted on all counts, he faces a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years in prison and could potentially be sentenced to life imprisonment. So,
yeah, I
yeah.
think Cassie's testimony today, I haven't read the transcripts, but I did hear a short report that she testified that she was forced to be a part of these parties that he
Mm.
was hosting. And I know that there's been video of him, abusing her and things like that. So anyway, it's very dark, very heavy.
Mhm.
Um, and so being that the trial is happening right now, and we know, like, I don't know if it has anything to do with Saturn at the late degrees of Pisces.
Hmm.
But is there anything that you would see in the astrology that would point to the significance of this trial happening right now?
Well, yes. I mean, I think Saturn in Pisces. Because Pisces is the fantasy, it's the
Mm.
illusion, and just from what I've heard about these freak off parties, is like, yeah, it's like he's creating this fantasy for the elite guests that were at these events. Um, I also think that it's interesting because, like, right now, yesterday, today, tomorrow, Mars is at 11 degrees in Leo. And P. Diddy was born with the sun at 11 degrees in Scorpio. He was born November 4th, 1969. So Mars, the god of war, is squaring his sun, the battery that's powering his human ship. So when Mars is squaring your sun, that's an incredibly tense or difficult transit. And Mars is in Leo, which is giving the courage to open the heart, to really roar like the lion. And his sun in Scorpio, that's it's no I hate to say this because I'm a Scorpio too, but it's like it's the wrong side of the coin, let's say, where he is, where his sun, his Mercury, and his Neptune are all in Scorpio. So that brings about that secretive nature, and it's coming to light
Ah,
right now. So I like to look at not just the transits in general, but like where are the transits happening in relation to the individual that is suffering through whatever experience they're going through. Neptune is also conjunct his Chiron right now. Mercury is conjunct his Saturn, so there's restriction to his mental nature. Mercury is also opposite his Mercury, so Mercury is in Taurus, which is reality. His Mercury is in Scorpio, which is secrets. So it's coming out, it's coming to the surface. And then the North Node in Pisces is opposing his Pluto. So, going through a transformation of the fantasy, like the fantasy is turned into a nightmare for P. Diddy. And yeah, trying to think what
yikes.
else is popping up. Yeah, but those are some of the main transits that I'm seeing that are going on with him right now.
Yeah, I love that you pulled up his chart. Somebody commented and said that Kim Kardashian, she did have to go in today. That's the trial that's going on in Paris around the millions of dollars in jewelry that was taken from her, and she was held at gunpoint.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of strange, right? So everything that you were saying about the general astrology also applies to Kim Kardashian
Totally,
and
because that's
that.
Taurus.
Yeah.
That's Taurus, the money, the values, the valuables. Exactly.
Wow. Interesting timing on all that. Yeah, Daniela, I agree. The truth is coming out. Yeah, I agree on this one. And I personally believe that, in different lifetimes that we are the good person, we're the bad person, we're everything in between. I believe in reincarnation. And so I don't think necessarily that the karma catches up to you in the same lifetime. It might catch up to you another lifetime, but
Hmm.
I think that it's all the data is collected and it eventually is set right.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All
it's
right.
best
Let's
to
see
do
what
the right
else.
thing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the Soviet era space probe crashed back to Earth after more than 30 years in orbit.
50 years.
Yeah, 50 years, 50 years
Yeah.
in orbit. Yeah. So it's been up there for a long time. And then it fell down to Earth.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it says it never reached Venus, its intended destination.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I had somebody reach out to me the other day and email me and say, "Oh, where do you think this probe's gonna land?" And I hadn't seen the email until after it had landed back
Where
on
did it
Earth.
land? Where
I
did
don't
it
know.
crash down?
I don't know where. I'm not sure. Somebody,
Hmm.
Indian Ocean, maybe. I feel like I may have heard Indian Ocean.
Oh yeah, it says it crash landed, like it says likely crash landed in the Indian Ocean on Saturday. That's what it
Okay.
says on this caption at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good thing it didn't, land on a city or, a neighborhood or something like that,
Yeah,
because it could
seriously, right?
it could
Jeez.
have been really catastrophic. But objects falling from the sky,
I
is
know.
that like a Pluto Aquarius? I know it's retrograde now, right?
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it's Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. Aquarius is technology, Pluto's transformation. So the retrograde may be bringing something down from the sky. But also, think of like Mercury has been squaring Pluto. And Mercury is in Taurus. And Taurus is that heavy weighted earth energy reality. So maybe, and Mercury also represents, it's the messenger of the gods. It represents communication, coordination. So maybe Mercury squaring Pluto had something to do with it. Yeah, I think about like it was intended to go to Venus, and Mercury and Uranus, the planet that rules Aquarius, as well as the sun, are all in Taurus, the sign that is ruled by Venus. So maybe that has something to do with it. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. Venus itself is aligning with Mars right now. So maybe that action oriented energy brought the satellite back to Earth. Who knows? So, yeah, it's fun to speculate, but yeah.
Yes, it is fun to speculate. Yeah, it just caught the headline caught my eye,
Hmm.
because it's not every day you hear of a space probe crashing back to Earth. But
Yeah.
yeah, it looks like in the comments, folks are saying Indian Ocean. So
I like
okay,
what Daniela said. Our oceans, they must be full of this crap. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, God. Wow. Jeez. Crazy.
oh gosh, I love the live chat. The live chat for
Yeah.
these streams is like so epic.
Yeah.
I look
The
forward to
peanut
it.
gallery.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's see what we have. Temporary truth. So, a lot of news outlets have been talking about the tariffs, and the stock market's been really wild. First, it goes down, then it goes back up, and uh, maybe a little bit more of a wild swing than what we're used to. Um, but I know that the stock market had liked this news, favorable news about US and China trying to come together uh, to figure out what the tariff stuff is going to mean for US and China.
Hmm.
Um, it still feels very murky to me psychically. I think I looked at it last Thursday and it still felt like it was stalled, the energy around it. So
Hmm.
I am curious what ends up happening in the next, 1 to 3 months with the US and China. I think there are so many different factors that can also throw in best laid plans. I think 2025, the summer has felt like it's going to be pretty mild. But then I keep feeling like it starts getting really topsy-turvy in September. So all that to say, maybe over the summer, at least the summer for the Northern Hemisphere, maybe we're going to be trying to work with China to get this figured out. Maybe it's a good time to do that over the summer. What are you seeing around anything having to do with, I don't know if it would be in the US chart or even just generally with astrology around, US and foreign countries, or where different world leaders may be represented in the chart? So what are you seeing?
Well, I always bring this up, but this is Uranus in Taurus. It's the planet of revolution in the sign that represents money and security. And so it's been bringing instability to our sense of security and our financial peace and abundance and harmony, for the last 6 years. And so it's now reaching those final degrees of Taurus before it moves into Gemini. And so as it continues to inch closer and closer to Gemini, it's going to maybe feel more and more intense in terms of like the stock market bouncing up and down. Like one day it's really great, and then the next day it comes down. And this is continuing. July 7th is when Uranus transits into Gemini. So I would just kind of expect the unexpected when it comes to money and finances over the next couple of months. Yeah, maybe it's the calm before the storm. I feel like the storms are going to blow in and blow out. It's going to be intense, and then it's going to be calm. Then it's going to be intense, and it's going to be calm. And I feel like it's going to kind of be that way until July. And then, like you said, maybe there is some fluidity in July and August, because that's when you're going to have Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, and Pluto are all going to be in air and fire signs. And so they're going to be maybe harmonizing with each other, let's hope. But it could also be things are more explosive and intense and extroverted. But by the time we get to September, that's when Saturn retrogrades back into Pisces. So that's going to drag everything back and delve us deeper into our unconscious in that real, maybe uncomfortable way. So, I just like this sort of stuff. It's hard to know what's going to happen, except that it's going to feel very unsettled.
Yeah, I agree. I've been really watching Uranus in the final degrees of Taurus. I
Mm.
just feel like something's gonna pop off.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it's kind of weird, right? Like when I say that, oh, it feels like the summer just kind of feels more mild. Like that feels weird for me to say because I
Mm-hmm.
also feel like there's going to be things popping off. So as I say that out loud, I'm wondering if it's almost like we've gotten used to some degree of just chaos, or these major headlines that send people into spirals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we're so desensitized now that I think there will be major headlines with Uranus and Taurus. And are people just going to be like, yeah, whatever, it's just like another thing, and
Well, I mean,
just keep moving through life?
think about the last time Uranus was in Taurus was 1935 to 1942. I mean, how crazy was life on Earth then? That was the Great Depression and World War II. So, every day you open up a newspaper and it's some big headline about, people dying in the war. People getting news every day that their family member, their loved one, was killed in the war. So very intense. What this is, I think where we need to go is like, what is this teaching us? Because I never think that the planets are just there to like punish us, or people always asking, when are things going to get better? It's like, what are you learning from this experience? And what Uranus and Taurus is teaching us is how to create our own financial independence. That's what Uranus and Taurus is all about. It's about financial independence, and you create financial independence by really honing in on what you value. Like, what is really important to me? What am I spending my money on? Am I spending my money on something that I value, or am I doing it to escape my reality in some way? Like when I mentioned earlier, back in 1999 on New Year's Eve, I was drunk and doing drugs on the strip in Vegas. It's a different time in my life, and maybe it's now that I'm much older, but I can't even imagine like going out and like buying alcohol somewhere. It just seems like like doing that. Like, how much money did I just blow in Vegas? Like, I would never even think to do that now. My values have changed. And so that's what we need to really take a look at is what do I value? What is important to me? And when you are clear about what you value, then you're making money doing something that you value, and you're spending your money on something that you value, as opposed to, well, I just got to make a lot of money and I hate my job. And because I hate my job, now I'm spending all my money on stuff that I don't really care about. This Uranus is trying to shake us out of that funk.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know what the current statistics are, but I know that there are a lot of people, in credit card debt, and even like the student loans had just restarted. That people have to pay on now. There's just, I think, this heaviness around what you were just saying.
Hmm.
What are we spending money on? What do we value? And it does make me think, because I've looked at the future of like higher education, even universities, and it doesn't even feel like they're that relevant in the future. Um, so everybody that's paying for education debt now, that has that type of debt, are they going to even be able to pay it off before college and university degrees become less relevant? It's such a strange time to be here.
It's revolutionizing our values, right? Like, do I really value spending however much I'm spending every year on going to school for 4, 5, 6 years, however long you're in college? Am I really, do I really need this degree to go and make money out in the world? Like, when you think about it, it's like, how old are these universities? 100, 150 years old. They're not even really that old. There was a time in this country where people uh, you know didn't go to a university and they thrived in life. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
reshifting values.
I hear you. I agree with you. I think even 5, 10 years ago, maybe even a shorter period of time than that. I worked in HR in Las Vegas in the casinos for a long time, and I've worked in another HR department since then. And I don't think the college degrees are going to be, like we've said, like that relevant with getting a job. But the job thing, that's a whole other rabbit hole, because I think that's going to be completely changed.
Hmm.
Um, but I remember, yeah, like 5, 10 years ago, people saying, like, oh, well, are you going to go to college, and what's your degree, and what are you going to do for work? And you have to have a college degree for your resume, or you're not going to be able to get a job.
Hmm.
And it hit me the other day. I had a relative of mine who's young. He's awesome, and he's going, believe it's to a community college. And I said, "Oh, well, what are you studying? That, that's great." And he says, "Heavy machinery."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Yes, that's amazing." Like, I was so excited that it was something that has to do with labor and the hands and like
Hmm.
work um because I think for a long time, obviously I haven't been around forever, but
Hmm.
just feel like it was so lopsided with people valuing more white collar jobs or white collar
Hmm.
professions.
Hmm.
And I think we're going to see a shift where we really understand the importance of some of these other kinds of jobs that maybe we haven't given enough respect and attention to.
Yeah, for sure. What's more practical? What like, is this job going to actually make me money after I learn whatever I'm learning in school? You know, I was a communications major in college. Like maybe, yeah, totally. Yeah, back in, just go to college to party. I mean, I feel like that's what I did. The greatest value that I got out of college was like I made some really good friends. But, my degree is not really helping me be a astrologer. I wasn't, that's not what I was studying in college. So, yeah.
Yeah, I got my degree in corporate communications with an emphasis in public relations. So,
Mm,
ironically, I'm one of the few people that maybe really did use the skills of like writing a press release and how do you
mhm.
get, marketing attention and things like
Yeah.
that.
I
So,
worked in publicity
yeah.
for a while because that fit my major, communications, but I was like, I'm not into this. This isn't fun for me. And so I moved on to, other experiences in my life. But yeah, I felt a lot of pressure to go to college from my family.
Mm.
It was like, you've got to go to college, you've got to get a degree. Look at your older cousins, they're so smart, they're going to college, and they went to college and they're using their degrees. I have a cousin who is an engineering major. He's, really high up in a major construction firm. I got another cousin who, was
I think we
majored
lost
in
Scott.
public
Okay. Oh,
relations.
yeah, I
And,
think you left the screen for
and
a second.
yeah, yeah, you're back. And or she majored in like political science, and she's, really heavily involved in like Washington DC stuff. And so, for some people, yeah, but for me, I didn't really have a direction. I was like, my mom was like, "What's your major going to be?" I'm like, "What major has the least amount of math possible?" And she was like, "Communications, you just have to take a statistics course." I'm like, "That's it. Okay. That's my major." That's how you're deciding your major is like no math class. Why am I going to
That's
school?
funny.
But
Oh my
yes,
gosh, that's so funny.
thank you, Lee. Communication studies helped me do what I do today. Thank you, Lee. I appreciate that. Although communications at the school I went to, UCSB, was more like it wasn't actually like this, like giving presentations. It was more like studying, which was interesting to me when I was there. I was like studying how men communicate with women, and how men communicate with men, and how women communicate with women, and how
Oh.
people communicate within organizations, within companies. It was more, I don't know, maybe scientific. So a lot of scientific studies over how people communicate. So it was interesting, but I certainly didn't engage in a manner that I think was worthy of like the amount of money we were spending on the school. So, but I loved it. I had a fun time. But yeah, so
We have breaking news from our
oh,
live
okay,
chat here. So there was
yeah,
a Crete, Greece
uh
just
huh,
experienced a 6.0 earthquake. So uh, yeah, I know that sometimes the planetary alignments can cause earthquakes or volcanoes or just more natural disasters. Is there
hmm.
something that you typically look to in astrology to get an idea if there's going to be like more natural disturbances that would be happening?
It's all just such a guess, and it's much easier to look at like in hindsight than to be predictive, at least for me. Maybe there's other astrologers out there that have really done the work to analyze every single natural disaster that's ever occurred on planet Earth and what was going on astrologically at that time. I'm not that person. I mean, I know when there's been like a couple big tsunamis, like I think one happened when Neptune was just transiting in the early degrees of Pisces. So that was interesting to me. But I have to go back and look to actually see. I know when I was like first getting into astrology, I was looking into that stuff. But now I haven't as much. As far as like this earthquake in Crete, it's like, why there? Well, what's the energy, astrological energy around Crete? When was this island founded, or when was it discovered? Like, we don't even know. So like when it was discovered, like who knows what the history is there and what it could mean. I mean, Uranus is transiting through Taurus, the planet of revolution, in the sign that is Earth. So I look at that, and I've always been thinking over the last 6 years, well, earthquakes, because when you think of Uranus as like that planet that shakes things up, and so it's shaking up the Earth. So yeah, it's like
Yeah.
when there was the fires in LA, there was planets transiting through fire signs. Uh, so that's always interesting, is a planet transiting through a fire sign, or a few planets transiting through a fire sign when there's a big wildfire, or water signs when there's a tsunami, or earth signs when there's an earthquake. So, and we've got three planets in Taurus right now. We've got Mercury, the Sun, and Uranus. So maybe it has something to do with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling too. I think we'll probably see more earthquakes as Uranus gets deeper or
Mhm.
closer
Mhm.
to
Maybe,
Gemini.
maybe.
Hmm. Like a
Hmm.
volcano symbol. So yeah, some more. But
Oh
I mean,
boy.
anybody can say that, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
all kind of feel it. We all kind
Uh-oh. We lost Dallisa. Those tsunami fish keep showing up on the beach. Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. Maybe because Pisces is like the caretaker, the nurse, rules hospitals and medicine. But I also think of Pluto in Aquarius because Pluto in Aquarius is like revolutionizing the community, and making things maybe more accessible for people. It's like Aquarius is a sign that is to balance everything out so that it's fair for everyone. So Pluto, the planet of transformation, transiting through Aquarius, is creating that revolution so that everybody feels more inclusive. And maybe that's what this is about, making it so that everybody feels like I can afford my medication. Hmm. Yes. Yes, yes, I could see that. I could see that where there's a computer algorithm or something that's, doing that's putting all the data, understanding it, and doing learning how to predict things from an astrological perspective. I could totally see that. I can see you, but so this is a little delayed. So I don't know if this is right now. You're off screen now. So it says, Scott, you have to translate. We don't have Delisa. Uh, we can't hear Delisa. I can hear Delisa. I don't know what's going on. So what was Delisa saying? Like, Delisa. So Delisa was saying that she's thinking that there's, in the future with Pluto and Aquarius, that there's going to be some sort of AI that, will compile all the data of planetary alignments and every single historical event that's occurred, and have an understanding of where the planets were during these historical events, and then we'll be able to predict or alert people when there's a higher probability of, let's say, an earthquake or a tsunami, or something like that. So this is the Scott Show on Delisa's channel this week. Yes, thank you, Jackie. Happy to be here. Yeah. So that's what Delisa said. Uh, Delisa is laughing over here. What else do you have to say, Delisa? Okay, yeah. So we're looking at the last headline. What are you going to say, Delisa? Yeah. Yes. So this is yeah. So what Delise is basically just reading the headline here, and yeah. Hi, how you doing, everyone? So bright auroras on Jupiter, uh, and Jupiter's dazzling auroras are 100 times brighter than those seen on Earth. New images from the James Webb Space Telescope. So Delise is asking me like, what? Yeah, put your name in the jar, Delisa. Uh, Delisa's laughing. Um, so, from an astrological perspective, again, like Pluto in Aquarius, I just think there's going to be so many new like developments or insights. This is technology that is showing us Jupiter in a new way. I feel like a lot of that's going to come up over the next 20 years, where we're going to be able to see planets and stars. Maybe they send somebody to Mars. Maybe we're all, transhuman in the next 20 years, like who knows? But when I see something like this with the James Webb telescope, and seeing a new discovery, so to speak, of Jupiter from a new perspective, it makes me think of Pluto in Aquarius. So, yes. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Vicky. Great to see you here. So, yeah. What else do you want me to say to Lisa? You're like the producer that's in my ear now, and you're just going to be telling me what to say. Delisa is going to try to sit in a different part of the house next week, where hopefully she has a better internet connection, and and are we going to choose a name out of the jar now, Delisa? Yes. So my website is theweeklytransit.com. If you want to work with me, if you want a chart reading, I also teach classes, which is my moon cycle class. It's every month we do a class where we're looking at where the new moon is, and then another class where the full moon is, and what that means for you. So that is sort of an introduction way to work with me. I also do readings, and I also have something called the Cosmic Pathway, which is a program where you meet with me weekly, and I am a guide supporting you through life. Delisa, you can find her at spiritandspark.com. And what are you promoting right now, Delisa? What are you excited about? Okay, she's got her May community class enrollment now open. Name your own price. Zoom and replay. The topic is dream interpretation. So Dallisa is honoring that Uranus in Taurus frequency, and really, like, what is this class value to you? You pay what you want, and Dallisa is going to help coach you through dream interpretation. Very fun, Dallisa. Awesome. Thanks for rolling with us here. Thanks for, yeah. We're just two people sitting in our houses, sharing the knowledge. So we're really grateful for you being here, for you spending your time with us. Your time is valued too. And so the fact that you are valuing us and wanting to spend your time with us is very meaningful to me, and I'm sure it's meaningful to Dallisa as well. And thank you, Melody. I feel like we work well together as well. I love working with Dallisa. I know her chart. We have great synastry together. So it's always fun to be here. Dallisa just, texted me this morning. I was like, hey, my other person backed out. Are you available? I'm like, of course. I'm always here for you, Dallisa. I love doing this show with you. It's so much fun. So yes, yes. Okay, I'm doing the drum roll for Delisa. Okay, let's draw it, Delisa. Trina Payton. Trina Payton, come on down. You're the next contestant on Dallisa Hocking's Spirit and Spark. Come on down to the Hocking Hacienda. You won a prize, Trina. Are you here? Yes, Trina. Okay, so Trina, you have until midnight tonight to reach out to Delisa at Delisa at spiritandspark.com. So Trina, you have until midnight tonight to contact Delisa at spiritandspark.com. So yes. Okay. Okay, so next week's guest is Celeste Brooks, and then I'm going to be Delisa's guest for the entire month of June. Wait, no, I'm next week's guest. Or aren't I next week's guest? May 20th? I th- I think I missed. Okay, yeah. I'm like, wait a second. Let's see. Let me double check my calendar. Yes, I'm next week's guest. So I'm going to see you all next week. And then it's Celeste, and then I'm here for all of June. So thank you all for spending time with us, for being here. And I'm excited to see you all next week. Again, spiritandspark.com for Delisa, and you can find me at theweeklytransit.com. Bye, everyone.